Okay, thanks guys. So I'm Maureen Kinard. I'm a technical sales manager for IBM. My heritage is in business analytics, so I am by far not as deep as Brandon is in...
We need more business in this group.
Okay, then I'll bring the business side into it.
So listen, you might learn something.
Yeah. So kind of my specialty is in data visualization and so forth. I really don't care where the data is coming from, whether it's in a CSV file or a relational database or streaming, wherever it might land. I'm kind of about the visualization side of it. So today, and this was kind of impromptu, by the way. I haven't done this demo in a while, but when Brandon said that he had to jump to the airport really quick, I said I can do this. So what you're seeing right here is actually visualization of some sensor data. This is actually commercial shredders in Germany. So some of the data that you're going to see is in Celsius. And it's indicating failures, and we're going to find out why those commercial shredders were failing based on the data. So again, this is Watson Analytics, but I wanted to back up for a second here because y'all have, and this is great for people to know what Bluemix is and what Watson APIs are. So that is awesome, but we do have a tendency to mess up with our branding, and Watson's kind of representing a lot of things now. Okay, so Watson Analytics is a cloud-based data visualization advanced analytics tool. Okay, we'll spend most of our time in that, looking at that today or tonight. The Watson APIs. How many of you have gone into Bluemix and even looked at the Watson? Okay, so like Watson conversation, trade-off analytics. Okay, very cool. I can actually show them in action on some of our customers' websites here, and I'll do that. So we'll do a couple thing. And then there's Watson, like Watson Health, there's Watson for Insurance, and that's where IBM, particularly our services group, have packaged up the Watson APIs for a specific industry. Okay, so we're applying the API capabilities along with our industry knowledge. So that's where you see like, IBM working with the oncology and with hospitals. So those are kind of the variations of Watson. So I just wanted to kind of level set that so you know what you're looking at here. But before I get to Watson Analytics, because I actually didn't know about this until fairly recently, and I apologize that my connection isn't working too well. I was trying to zoom in and zoom out. So this is the North Face website. And they are actually using IBM Watson conversation and trade-off analysis or analytics to help you find a code. Okay, or so if you're going to Glacier National Park or Yellowstone, you can get started. So this is where you can interact with natural language. Okay, so you don't have to do pick lists or breadcrumbs and filters. So let's say I am going to Glacier National Park in January. So I'll go ahead and submit that. And you're going to see some of this natural language capability when I show Watson Analytics. So what would we be using it for? Let's just say hiking and camping. And this is for a woman. Okay, so now it's telling me what the conditions are typically like in Glacier National Park. Okay, so high winds, it's freezing, and I want to be prepared for heavy rain. Okay. And so right now it's doing that trade-off analysis to find out what's a high match for that interaction I had. And by the way, Watson has a brain, if you will, and it's kind of collecting the data that you're inputting, and it's also defining an opinion about the conversation that it has with you. And I'm not a Watson API guru, but I'm just kind of starting to learn about it. So these are the matches it's saying what style. So this kind of goes back to your kind of traditional pick list. But like I said, it helps you cull down. I'm not a shopper, so this is very helpful to narrow down your choices. Okay, so those are the Watson APIs. I won't go through it, but also 1-800, so that was the North Face. 1-800-Flowers has a similar Watson personal concierge, and it's called GWEN. It stands for Gifts When You Need. Okay? And you go through, and this is kind of, it is kind of cool because it picks up from the natural language interaction. Like I did an example of looking for Christmas presents for employees, for my employees. And then it would talk back to me saying, you know, I hope your coworkers like this. You know, it picks up the different words and reapplies them back to the conversation. Okay, so those are the Watson APIs, and you can find them on Bluemix. And I think all of them have a free level as long as you're under so many calls from your application. So I just wanted to show that. So, okay, well, number one, because it's kind of cool, but then also to help you differentiate between that and also the Watson Analytics that I'm about to show. Okay, so is that a question?
Yeah. So do you offer three-dimensional visualization also?
Not yet, although we're moving, and this is where we're going to be offering D3 visualizations, and I believe that those are, you have animation and 3D capabilities to it. It was a data-driven visualizations. It's D3, so that's coming. This is more for the business analyst, so we don't get real deep into specialization, of that sort. But I'm also going to show we do have some advanced analytics. It's actually, does anyone had ever college used SPSS or work statistics? No SPSS? SAS? No. All right. So there is some advanced analytics, mathematical approaches to finding trends and patterns in your data. So that's under the covers too. But we're trying to make everything from a business analyst standpoint. We're trying to help everybody be what's called a citizen data scientist. Okay. So putting that capability in everybody's hands. All right. But what we're looking at here is kind of the end result. I'm going to back us into this. But this is an interactive visualization over here. I couldn't get everything to fit on the screen really well. These are my shredders. Each one has a resource ID or a record ID. Here's how I've got about almost 90,000 records. I've got about almost 4,000 failures. So if I click on my failures, I can see the visualizations change dynamically in context to what the environment looked like in terms of humidity. This was hydraulic pressure. Here's humidity versus fluid level. Okay, and we'll take a look at the source data there. But I just wanted to show some of the interaction. If I look back on, just my successes, my shredders that did not fail, this is kind of what the environment looked like, and we'll dig a little bit more into this. But so let's go back to the source. I just used a spreadsheet, and so based on a day and the shredder by record ID, I had information collected. The sensors were giving off information about ambient temperature, dryer position, extensions, fluid levels, humidity, RPMs, blade temperature, okay, a bunch of information. I also, and this is really nice, I also had visibility into whether that shredder had failed, okay, and this is what the situation looked like when that shredder failed, okay, and I've got 90,000 records. About 4,000 of them were failures, right? So we're going to dig into this and see if we can find out any patterns about why those shredders failed. Okay.
Maureen, what are we shredding? Are these paper shredders, car
These
shredders?
are like commercial paper shredders,
Okay.
yeah. So, and like I said, some of this is going to be in Celsius because it's from Germany. All right. Okay, so this is sourcing from a spreadsheet, but it could be sourced from anywhere. Watson Analytics, you can load from just a file on Box. We also allow, with our partnership with Twitter, you can load Twitter data. I can source from a number of different relational and Hadoop data stores. Okay, so that might be a little bit hard to see, but I think there's somebody from Amazon here, so we got Amazon Redshift. We're also starting to reach out to applications like Salesforce, okay? And there's more to come here, all right? Is there a question? Okay, so, you know, I don't care where I'm getting my data. Now, one thing to point out right now in where Watson Analytics is, Watson Analytics is not quite 2 years old. It does bring your data into the cloud, okay? And it does that, it uploads it, because Watson Analytics does apply Watson technology, so natural language processing, hypothesis generation, and concept categorization are 3 capabilities that this tool has inherited from the Watson that we all saw on Jeopardy, okay? So we'll be taking a look at that. But I grabbed my data, it does go up to the cloud, and I mention that because we are working on capabilities that your data does not have to move from its source. We're calling that query in place. Okay. All right, so once I get my data up in Watson Analytics in the cloud, let me just take a look at it. I can do some lightweight refinement, changing column names. I can create hierarchies so it makes the data drillable. Watson Analytics also actually detects some natural hierarchies like date. So if you remembered when I showed my spreadsheet, I just had a normal date, but it broke it down into month, day, year, month, day. So it sees it as a hierarchy and does that automatically for you. If I had a product and it went down to a SKU level, it would detect that. And that's part of that smarts that the Watson capabilities are bringing to the table. I can create groupings. This would actually be, I didn't create any here, but this would be nice when you have data ranges like this. You can create data groups. So if I said like high fluid level, medium fluid level, and so forth, so I can do that. And I can play with some of this, but I'm going to try to get through the demo and then we come back into.
And this is all in the browser? This is all on the internet?
It's all browser-based, cloud-based, yeah. And this is not sourced through Bluemix. I don't know if we have plans to source it through Bluemix. Right now you just type in watsonanalytics.com, and there is a freemium version, okay? So anyone can, and it's unlimited time frame. And the only thing I think you're lacking is access to relational data stores and access to Twitter data. That is at the $30 a month level, okay? All right, so let's go back now. Got my data loaded. Let's say I did some refinement. Let's go interrogate the data. Okay. So hopefully it will come up. Here we go. So you see some questions there. Let me blow this up. And this is called my exploration. And there's a little bit of flow network. So come on. All right. So this is where Watson Analytics is looking at your data, and it's proposing to you what it thinks you might want to ask your data and want to see in it. Okay. So for example, what is the trend of ambient temperature by over year by fail? Okay. Fail, yes or no. What is the relationship between blade tip temperature, humidity by year? And it's also giving you a sneak peek of how it's going to visualize, because comparisons are better presented in bar charts. Trends are better presented in line charts and so forth. So it gives you these starting points. So let me go ahead and let's look at ambient temperature over year. I only have 2 years, I think, in this, so this is going to be a pretty simple chart. But if you recall, so I just have 2013 and 2014, and I can see my failures. And it looks like I had more data probably for 2013, but because I had that natural hierarchy, I can drill into 2013 and get down to the month, and I can see there's a bit of a rise in December, so I can drill down into the day. So I've got a starting point. I can adjust, I can add factors here, I can change this to let's say a bar chart if I want. We can stack that. So just a starting place. This is particularly, we actually use it internally a lot for when we're doing customer engagements and proof of concepts, and we get a data set, we have no idea what the contents are, and we'll use Watson Analytics to just get a start, and it can be very enlightening. Now up at the top, these are called, called the insight bar, and Watson Analytics is consistently proposing to you different ways to look at your data, okay? And what we say here is, particularly from a business analyst standpoint, business analysts tend to run the same queries and reports. They can tweak the data to maybe make it look good for their executive management. And so what we're trying to do with Watson Analytics is disrupt the bias, okay? So give the analysts an unbiased look at their data, okay? So if I want to look at the ambient temperature by month, hey, I can open this in a new page, and so it's like I'm kind of creating a book of visualizations. And so now I can see, how my temperature, and it's kind of interesting, the ambient temperature has decreased. They must turn the air on. So in July, or maybe I thought it was from Germany. Maybe it's from Australia. Could very well be. So and from there, I can color by. Let me bring up fail. So I can just interact with the data. Okay, so now I got my failures. I can go ahead and stack that. And there's a bunch of things I can do, like, I can pin this content, so I can take this visualization and put it in a dashboard, so a bunch of things that I can do. But the real key here, and this is where Watson capabilities come into play, is being able to interact from a natural language standpoint. So I can say, like, show me the relationship between ambient temperature and humidity, and it does do the predictive text. Let's do by fail. So now I've asked it a question, so it's going to propose to me questions that it's come up with that are very relevant to what I've asked. And by the way, you always have your data at your disposal, so if you kind of forget, Watson Analytics is going to, as you can see, it kind of did that predictive text to help me along. But you do have the data, in the data tray below. All right, so let me take this point chart. And this might be a little bit hard to see because it's just showing me the ambient temperature for overall fails and overall successes or functioning fine. So let me go ahead and I'm going to add in the resource ID. Let me add that as points. So now that I'm looking at each individual shredder, and when I had a failure, so this is when I had my failure versus a no fail, I can kind of start to see a bit of a clustering and of a trend here that maybe I'm having failures when the humidity is on the higher side, okay, versus on the lower side, and I've got a nice consistent temperature. So you see here the failures seem to be somewhere in this ambient temperature and definitely in the humidity range. Okay, so this is your typical BI. You're kind of going through and kind of trying out different factors, but I've got a lot of metrics to take a look at. So let me apply some math to this. Okay, so I'm going to go into what is my predictive capability. And I'll back into how I got here, but what I wanted to show is you run that same data set. It's SPSS algorithms under the cover, but you don't have to know SPSS. You don't have to know you don't have to really know linear regression and things like that. Just kind of understand the concepts of correlations. Okay. So if I'm to look at the 90,000 records across, I don't know how many, 15 measures or so, 10 measures that I had. If I'm to look at all that data holistically, what is the pattern that's driving a failure, yes or no? The one field, if I'm to pick one thing that's affecting failures, you can see my one field is highlighted there, and I'm targeting on failures, it's humidity. Okay, so that just jumps right out. Okay, so we started to kind of see that when we were doing our analysis in our exploration, but the math is telling me now that, and I think it will tell me, based on the distribution, okay, the statistical details. So it's chi-square. It will tell me that humidity is the biggest influencer of a failure. Yes.
So you showed this polling data. Could you push to it, say from Edu, for example? Could you push data into this on a regular basis and have it send you reports and things like that?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so you could. There's a couple ways you could do it. Watson Analytics has its own set of APIs
Sure.
for like operations.
Sure.
So if you want to load it, I wouldn't say it's necessarily real time, but it could be close to
Every day
real
or
time.
something like that.
Yeah.
batch.
Oh, for sure,
Nice.
for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we have that, and we also have some ETL tools like Data Connect that's in Bluemix that you can automate the push to. So either via API or via Data Connect, which is more of a Canvas ETL scheduling.
Right.
So okay, so if I look at the two fields, I still get humidity, but now I start to see some correlations between humidity and seal age, humidity and ambient temperature. But if I'm to look at all of the factors, how does one play against the other, I get a more complex model, if you will. I have this decision tree. And I'm going to flip over because, again, this is used by business users, and we want you to be able to present your findings to your management. You'll see things like word clouds, okay? So where you can, immediately see the factors that jump out. So, humidity, and to a lesser extent, ambient temperature and seal age and so forth. Okay? Top decision rules. So these are the types of visualizations that you get, okay, when you're applying the advanced analytics against your data. I like this one a lot. If I change my failures to yes, this kind of groups for me what the scenario looks like that has a high propensity for failure in this case. So out of all of the fails, those 4,000 records or 3.5K records, 20% had this scenario where the humidity was greater than 70%, fluid levels were lower, and the blade tip temperature was not too high, but on the higher side. Okay, and then we go down from there. Okay, so these are situations. So whether you're in your environment, you want to kind of set up an alert, or whatever the case might be, you now kind of have an idea very quickly of what might potentially set you up for failure. And likewise, this is what the environment looked like when there were no failures, okay, and during that time frame. And you can go on. There's just different ways to visualize kind of the same results and same data. It's whether you want to look at it by a decision tree. And again, this is trying to help everybody become the data scientist, right? You don't have to go into SPSS or SAS and try to figure this out yourself. And just again, this kind of depicts every different type of scenario and whether or not you're going to have a failure. One of the things I like about this is coming from I came from a DB2 background, so it was all about SQL. So down here at the bottom, it's probably pretty hard to see. It's like a case statement. So if humidity is this, then this is then you're going to have a failure, no failure in this case, right? So this is something, again, you can kind of give to your DBA or your application developer who's setting up those alerts and such like that. Okay, so a lot of information that you can get to very quickly. Okay, so last thing I'll show is so we've loaded the data, we've explored it with natural language capabilities, we've applied advanced analytics against it to find patterns that we might not have found by just kind of tooling around the data. And so now we want to create a dashboard. So that's kind of where we started. So we started here with a dashboard that I pre-did, and it's interactive. So if I go into edit mode, I'm going to go ahead and create another tab here. We support infographics and multi-tab dashboards. We can give you a short link, a short URL, so you can embed this in applications or a website. You can tweet it, you can share it, PowerPoint, PDF. We have the share capability up here. Okay. And I think, yeah, okay, share. So here's a link, tweet, download. I think we're gonna be that's just creating a link. I think we're gonna be supporting LinkedIn as well. All right, so now I've got my blank palette. If I raise my data tray, I can see, you saw this before, right, in the exploration, the access to the data. I also have the access to the same metrics, but it's searchable here along the side and in alphabetical order, so it's easy to find. So if I want to just bring out, like, for example, well, we found humidity was a factor, so let's just bring out humidity, just drag it onto our palette. And it just automatically gives me average humidity. Let's do the same for, I think, was it seal age? That was a factor. So let's bring in like average seal age. I think that might come up as a sum, but I can change it very quickly to an average. So I have my seal age. I think I had pinned something before. So let me look at my pinned content. So yeah, here's some data exploration I had done. So I pull that over here. That's working on visualizing. I think I dropped it. I might have to change let me do that again. There it comes. A little slow connection. All right. So that was something that I pinned from my exploration. But I can also create some charts from scratch. So let's just say, let's say by month. Let's say by month, and let me multi-select here by month what the like the ambient temperature, and let's go ahead and do humidity also. Let me bring those three metrics out, and it's going to choose what it thinks is the best visualization, but if I did want something else like a scatter plot, okay, I can switch it. Okay, I've got word clouds. Let's see if I go over here. I do hear some oohs and ahs, so thank you. Can we have some goodies out there? Whoever's oohing on. Okay, pie charts, radials. Mentioned word clouds. We're working on this. We actually have a data player too, which is kind of, the data player is kind of cool if I'm to pick by, like, let's say month, then it actually allows you to step through the data, and so you can kind of see things changing here. In a way, it's a form of animation, right? Now, I didn't necessarily pick good visualizations that work well for this, but you kind of get the gist, right? And it also functions as a filter, so if I want to see what things look like in August, I can just click on August. Okay.
I love how fast it lets you move through everything. Try doing that in Excel.
Yeah. I love building dashboards in this tool. So, okay, let's click back. Let me try something else. But I think you're kind of getting the idea. Let me do something else that might, okay, fails. If I bring fails over, let's see what it defaults to, and I'm going to probably change it to a radio. Okay, it just gives you a list, so this can function as just a filter. Okay, but if I did want to change this to a visualization, let's just pick this radial, because I had fail, and I'll just count up the rows. Right. And let me change my access, my scale, so we'll get a little bit more, probably not the best visualization, but you can see that I've got less failures than I do have fail. But if I go ahead and highlight the ones that failed, again, I can see, what my interaction is. Likewise, you can bring in websites. So let me just do that. Oh, it has HTTPS. Yeah. Take a second. It's thinking.
So do you think that the dashboard might be able to keep up with data flowing in from, say, an IoT device?
you wouldn't use this for real time like that, because you would have to load.
Okay.
You would have to load your data to the cloud, and then update. So it wouldn't be real time. I don't know the answer as to how close you could get and it be realistic.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like this is more for static reports, right? This is more like
A
static
little more on
snapshot.
the static report side, or I mean, you could even do it on the hour. I would feel comfortable saying on the hour. But for real time, we've started to go to. We use like Cognos Analytics, which is kind of the big brother of Watson Analytics, more the enterprise level. We've got some ways to do report refreshing at a pretty quick rate, so that might be more viable for more of a near real time. But I've also seen, from an open source perspective, has anyone seen those Epoch visualizations? They're like EKG charts and things. EPOCH. If you look up Epoch or Epic, real-time visualizations, and I think they might be Java-based. I don't know. I know you can definitely put them in, and I can look it up here on the.
And you said you're pulling in D3 as well soon, right?
We're in, yep,
Which is very exciting.
yeah.
So that means if you cannot use it as a real time, that means you cannot use this one as a prediction engine, right? For example, at a certain temperature.
Right, from a deployment standpoint, like scoring. Like talk
Yeah,
about scoring.
at a certain temperature and humidity, I want to predict whether it's fail or success.
Yeah.
And what is the confidence value?
Right.
Can you do this?
So that's more SPSS,
Okay.
right? So that's something for, so this is kind of training the model, right? You have your history, but then what you're saying is you want to apply it against real-time data and score it, right, with a
Right.
confidence.
Right.
So we consider that on, that's like SPSS deploying the model, and so that's not this. That would be using SPSS or R. Okay. And you can deploy R in SPSS, collaboration and deployment. Okay. I'll show you. They are working on. If I go back to the predictive model, they are working on an ability. Because this is a model, but it's a limited model, right? The ability to export it to SPSS. I know, coming soon. Admittedly, it's been coming soon for a while. We're working on it. Because there's some things going on with SPSS. Has anyone played with the data science experience? DSX, data science experience? Okay, that might be something else that you guys want to check out. So it's like a workbench, if you will, where as a developer or a data scientist, you have access to SPSS, Watson Analytics, Watson APIs, all within like an IDE. Okay, so and it has collaboration. It's pretty cool. Tutorials, data sets, like open data you have access to. So anyway, why I'm bringing that up is the roadmap for SPSS is to kind of be built into the data science experience. So, okay. Oh, so the point of this is Watson Analytics is, again, kind of going back to, it's a tool for the data analyst, the business analyst. So you're kind of interrogating your data, you're finding some interesting things, but you know, like with the humidity, you might want to now talk to your data scientist and say, hey, I think I've hit upon something with humidity. Can you now take this? Can you take what I've done, get more data, more metrics, and investigate it more? Okay. So that's that kind of where we have this spectrum of business analytics where you're asking hundreds of questions of your data. You come up with a couple of good hypothesis things that you want to dig into further. You give it to your data scientist, and then you come up with maybe one or two things that, you want to, productionalize that report or those alerts or that scoring model. Okay? So that's kind of the progression where we're trying to get the business more capable.
Until Watson automates them out of a job as it learns more.
Yeah. Trust me, it won't. We're okay for a while. We're okay for a while.
So this is a very nice data set in picking Watson can generate a decision tree, but not all data sets are so cut and dry. Does Watson have the ability to like generate hidden node networks or something like that?
Iterate.
Like an H&N model or something like that?
And
A
what
hidden
HNN?
H&N, I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I can do some, let me go, fully. Sometimes they update Watson Analytics late at night. So let me go into prediction. I'll show you, there is some control that you can have. So I can mark some of my data as, just don't consider that. It might be redundant data. So for example, so if I do, what drives failures, and I want to target on fail, I can edit the data or take a look at it, and it's going to show me, hopefully it does come up, it's going to show me some of the distribution of the data, if I have any outliers. Getting a network error, which typically sometimes they take it down. Usually it's on
You can hear
Friday.
screams from the living room when Watson goes down.
What?
You can hear screams from her in the living
Yes,
room.
on
when
Friday
Watson goes
at
down.
9
Don't go
Eastern.
down on me now!
Friday night at 9 Eastern, I'll still be creating dashboards, and it goes down for maintenance for an hour. So here are my data sets. So you can see, you can see some of the distribution. And so if I want to eliminate, like say, date as an input, because it could be relevant here, but let's just say it's not relevant. I'm focusing on fail. You can see my distribution of failures. It's a nominal value. I could support continuous. So if I'm looking at, I've done things with continuous variables like blood pressure and what causes high blood pressure and such like that. So I can take things out, and it'll say if I've got a field that 60% of the data is missing, it's not going to consider it. I can force it to consider it. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. If you don't have the cleanest data, because yes, this is a nice clean data set. If I don't have the cleanest data, I can kind of tweak it a little bit. But the reality is you might need to do some ETL on the front end. And for that, we're proposing, it's in Bluemix called Data Connect is our cloud-based ETL tool that was just announced at our annual conference last month.
Could you talk a little bit about the Redshift integration?
It's just as a data source. I have not tried it myself.
You know how old that is?
When did that as a connector is probably within the last 6 months. Any other questions? Looks like it's getting late. We're almost to 9.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So the question is, how ready to market is Watson Health? And 2, when feeding data into Watson, say Watson Analytics, say you have a healthcare vertical, or you buy a product, do you have like standard best practices to feed data, and does the data have to be flattened? You want it all in one database, or is it okay to have like disparate copies, different data sets, and then you can all feed it in, and then Watson crunches it?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure I heard everything, but the last part, when you're going against a database, you can do preload joins within the tables of a database. We are soon going to support post-load joins. So I think that might answer that question. You had something about Watson Health though.
Yeah, I was like, is it already out in the market? Is Watson Health out in the market, or is it still under development?
I think it's out in the market.
Yeah, I believe it's out there.
Yeah. It's not in my space,
This is not
but I'm
Watson
pretty
Health.
sure it's one of our, what do they call it, hardened, the product is hardened.
Okay.
Yeah, Watson Health is a hardened product at this point.
Okay.
And I think Watson, and then there's specialties like Watson Oncology.
Yeah, you would not want to use this for heart monitors or things like
No.
that, especially if it
No.
goes up and down.
Yes.
No,
However, I will say I did do some analysis on Bureau of Prisons. They gave me, and it was very sparse data, very sparse. But it was very interesting that the things that it came up with, especially around mental health, that when it was all in spreadsheets, that the wardens, because it was wardens that looked at this, that they just never saw. They just didn't see the patterns, and they, even from a BI standpoint or a predictive standpoint. So it's just kind of all in the way you looked at it. And so even though it was very sparse data, they were able to see some correlations, a pattern for mental health based on, whether the person had been in foster care, had been in mental health care for X amount of months. Those patterns started to show up. Yeah, and I was kind of surprised because, like I said, it was very sparse. But I went into here and forced some. Hey, I know it's sparse, but consider it. And it came up with some interesting things for them to look at. Like I said, Watson Health, People's Health are going to be on the line. That's a very robust product, and takes much more into consideration, right? It's all medical information. It's imaging and so forth. So that's kind of a different animal. Yes.
So does Watson depend on the raw CPU power, or do you also rely on?
It's cloud-based. It's cloud-based, so it's you don't have.
For images, do you also leverage graphics GPUs instead of just raw CPU power?
I'm not sure I'm getting that question.
Well, it's PowerPC based, but I'm not sure that there are GPUs on the server or that they're using GPUs as servers.
A good.
For graphics.
And video test.
Oh.
For images.
They're using just, well, I'm not sure if they're using it in Watson.
Yeah, and now this does not
It is?
support.
Okay.
You can
Sure, thank you.
you can show an image, just like I showed like a website, but this is for structured data. I probably should have said that from the beginning. This is all about structured data. And then I think another question was, what type of data does this like? It kind of likes wide data sets, flattened out. Okay, so lots of metrics down by typically date is a really good for your rows. So what are the conditions by date is typical.
You mentioned
They're using it for language processing.
the tools to fund these spectral analysis.
Spatial.
Yeah, spectral analysis, like FFT. Very interesting. So you do time domain processing or.
Okay, I can't hear it, but and I think we're back to what is the HS?
That's you talk about hidden Markov models. I'm asking about frequency processing. So over time, you frequency process the data.
Sorry. Can somebody help interpret for me?
Frequency processing?
How-
Frequency processing over time?
like time series. Like time series. We are going to be supporting time series and forecasting.
Thanks.
But it's really more from a business standpoint, so I don't know if it's gonna do what you're asking about. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with. This is where I'm kind of on that other side of not Brandon. Any other questions? Do we have any other giveaways?
I've been giving away one. I do have, let's see, I have.
That I think is the USB
spider.
multi-connector. Okay.
I get one for
So,
everything.
so I'm not sure I answered all your questions, because you guys are a lot smarter than me on the IoT side and the sensor and such. But give this a shot. If you get the freemium version, by the way, your account will look a little bit different than mine. They've been updating the visualizations, the types of visualizations supported, and my account has not been upgraded. So when you go into it, don't be shocked if it looks a little different. It's just because you're going to get a newer tenant, as they call it, account. But check it out. Like I said, it's free. And if you want that extra support of bringing in Twitter data, which is pretty darn cool, by the way, you can just, based on a topic and a time frame, you can bring in Twitter data, so like a hashtag IoT. You can bring in, what's being said on the Twitterverse about that subject.
Do you guys have any like user groups or stuff in town for analytics and data science and things like that?
Dallas. We have an analytics user group in Dallas. We're pretty thin right now. That's why we're looking to hire in 2017 when we figure out our organization. We had a big reorg in July. People moved all over, and we're going to have to tweak in January. So that's why I made that comment. Because we just don't have a lot of people to support doing a lot of these. So I actually run the analytics user group in Dallas, and we just had a meeting last week. We did Spark, a Cognos update. We usually have a customer presentation. So I've done some here in Austin. Hart Hanks used to support us, but it was really just a matter of, as David could tell you, this can take a lot of work to get sponsors and topics. So.
Sounds like we could start an Austin IoT data analytics focus meetup.
A lot of sensor data and stuff. I mean, getting started with this stuff is extremely hard. I mean, this has been really neat to find out. You could just sort of point it up there and just start playing with it right in the cloud. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah. But David, I mean, we should stay in contact because I do have lots of people at my disposal, like Brandon, that can go deeper. So like I said, I'm just a manager. But it shows you if you're being a manager, you can play with this tool. But we can sponsor more meetings.
Awesome,
This is a really
great.
great group.
Yep.
Thank you.
This may be a repeat of what you've already said, but how do you get an account?
WatsonAnalytics.com, and then there'll be a button to sign up.
All one word,
WatsonAnalytics.com.
And there's some integration with Bluemix as far as like data connect and stuff. It sounds like as well.
Yeah.
For
So
feeding data.
yes, like so this is Bluemix. Oh, let me just go back so you can see. It resolved into IBM Cloud, but Watson Analytics, all one word.com will get you where you need to be. But Bluemix, let me zoom out.
Thank you.
So Data Connect just was announced, and it's self-service data preparation in the cloud. So it's pretty nifty, especially if you have diverse data sources. So I've been using it. I just develop demos, right? So I don't do things in implementation or production. So like getting data into Cloudin, or like from the weather API and dealing with JSON, and I'm not a developer. The Data Connect has helped me, push JSON into Cloudin or a spreadsheet into Cloudin without having to write any code. So that's what I use Data Connect mainly for. Do some joins. There's some join capabilities within Watson Analytics, like that preload join, and on the roadmap is the post-load join. So there's a little bit of redundancy and development sharing between Data Connect.
So
and
I'm just seeing a lot of ways Edge and this could easily tie together. Feeding data up. And
yes.
Things like that is really powerful.
Yeah. Just announced. Admittedly, I think it still has some maturity that has to go, but I've been pretty happy with it. It's a kind of a nice tool. Let me see the pricing on that starter. Zoom out. I'm in so there's a free. Most of the Bluemix services have a free level, at minimum a 30-day trial level. So yeah, it looks like there's a free capability there. And then let's see, we go. DashDB is a nice relational database in the cloud. There's all sorts of great stuff out here. So you guys have probably went to. I have not played with these Internet of Things. Oh, hold on. Get rid of that. Okay. Here's some Internet of Things, car diagnostic API. There's always something new, by the way. IoT for insurance. These are things that I have not done, but maybe I need to find for David. You said somebody from Blue Mix presented. Did they go into any of?
It was several months ago.
Mobility?
It may have even been, it may have been a year ago. I'd have to go back
We
and
need to come
look.
back and do an update.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
cool new stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're really focusing on Blue Mix.
What if you get Barnes to come?
Oh, David Barnes, yeah. Oh, good job.
Right?
Yeah.
We have one of the old school, one of the best presenters we've ever had that's a lot to it.
Cool.
Yeah,
He's here
he'd be
in town.
great.
Oh, awesome, yeah.
He'd be
He's
much
really
more
awesome.
fun
He'd be really
than
fun.
me and Bree. Okay, all right, so we're good? Okay.
all right.